Oh, gosh. Who's calling this early in the morning? Shiro Base, Dallas reporting.
Oh, Dallas. So glad you picked up.
Yes,
The
General.
High Council found a new signal coming from the planet. It would appear that...
General? Yo,
That takes
what's
care of that
happening here?
imposter.
Whoa.
Sorry, Dallas.
What?
I know you probably are surprised that wasn't the real General Romeo.
What just happened?
I'm here now. Anyway, let me see.
You're the-
Oh, yes.
What?
It would appear that a new sector of the planet is forming and will soon be releasing regular communications revolving around Gundam.
Right, but that...
A quote-unquote prelude signal
Okay.
was sent this past week, and the council needs you to analyze it.
I mean, I would love to, General, but I'm afraid I'm man down. Branson's off preparing for Operation Gospel Gaslight. He'll be back just in time for the next Gundam 79 mission. What just happened over here, by the way?
The council has sent a special operator to assist you.
So we're just going to ignore this body over here?
He too is not experienced in Gundam,
Okay.
but does have experience in anime.
Right.
He's also a talented storyteller and reviewer.
Well, that's good.
Director Algorithm is anxious for this report and wants it done quickly.
He sounds very bossy, sir. Very
Off
bossy.
the record, soldier.
Yeah?
Yes,
Oh.
he is.
Okay, so who's the operator? Not that guy, right?
Oh, dealing with this imposter, I completely forgot.
Oh, it's all right.
It's your fellow commentator for the bomb shelf.
We're sure it's him?
John Harju.
Oh, John. Okay, cool. I'm excited about that. I gotta keep him away from the taco quesadilla systems, though, don't I?
Indeed. The High Council is still trying to figure out how to get the ones orbiting the planet down safely. They should be more concerned with people impostering me, General Romeo, but priorities are a little askew at present.
Yeah, they should work on that. Curious, what is this new sector of the Gundam district being called, sir? Sir?
Mobile Suit Gundam, the Witch from Mercury. It's been 7 years since a new signal has come from the Gundam district, so this is of highest priority.
Understood, sir. I will jump on this right away. In 1979, Mobile Suit Gundam was introduced to the world. But what is Gundam? Where do you start watching it? Join the crew of Shiro Base as they seek to discover Gundam together. Come and join the Gundam Watch. Hello, Gundam fans, and those who are interested in the franchise. Welcome to the Gundam Watch. This is Dallas here for this special bonus episode of the Gundam Watch. And yes, that's right, another bonus episode. We had doozy bots, thanks to General Cellcast, and General Romeo has passed down something interesting to us. And fortunately for me, I don't have to ride solo today. I have somebody helping me out, and I'm super excited to have aboard Shiro Base with me my good friend John Harju. What's up, buddy?
Dumpster fire.
Wow. Wrong podcast, John.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Are you giving us your ideas on the series already?
No.
For those of you who are not familiar with the vast array of podcasts by Geek Devotions, which this podcast is part of the Geek Devotions podcast network, John is
in all of them.
He really is. He's on We Read Allegedly, The Bottom Shelf. He does a monthly segment for the main podcast for Geek Devotions, Com Talk by Geek Devotions. And I really appreciate all of his help in helping us accomplish the mission of Geek Devotions, which is that we are devoted to letting people know that they're loved. And John, welcome aboard Shiro Base.
Yeah. Why is this base so much nicer than what we have for the bottom shelf?
Well, it's newer, so it still has that new base smell.
Okay. I walked past one of those pods back there, and it had definitely was not a new base smell.
Oh, I think we cleaned it up. I think it'll be fine. I promise you, it'll be fine. I'll have Haro take care of that. But John, with you being new to the show, I wanted to kind of give people an idea of who you are. What is your do you even like anime?
Yes, I think.
Oh, okay.
I'm not like I am a weeb wannabe. Like I like the idea of anime, but there are certain cultural differences that kind of keep me at arm's length.
Okay.
In Japan, there are certain things that are a little bit more acceptable that so I'm not gonna beat around the bush. It's the fan service. Sir.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want it, don't need it. So finding, and there's a lot of it in the anime that people seem to like in Dragon Ball Z, Master Roshi's a bit of a skeevy pervert.
Yeah, that's true.
And so, that kind of tainted that show for me, but everybody knows my two shows that I dig, though, Samurai Champloo and
which is
Trigun.
fantastic. I'm so thankful that you gave me you gifted me the code to have the digital version of Samurai Champloo. I love that so much. It's
a good show. Also, recently when I was down there for GeeksCon, I picked up the first season of Tokyo Ghoul. Haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And does Avatar: The Last Airbender count as anime?
Oh, that's the great debate. Does that count? It's anime styled. Whether or not it's actual anime, I leave that to the individual to decide.
And just because I'm a controversial person, I like my anime dubbed.
Hey, no shame
not
here.
Subbed. And so that's so I am weeb adjacent, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Adjacent. I love that phrase.
I am diet weeb, just one diet calorie, weeb. Not weeb enough.
I'm gonna make some designs for weed, not weed, weeb adjacent.
No, weed adjacent is stuff that happens here in Washington State. That's something that completely different.
So, but okay, so you said that you've you're into anime-ish.
I like the idea of anime, but I'm super guarded as far as what I watch, and I have a tendency to err on the side of caution.
Okay, so what kind of stories do you like? The anime you have seen, what have you leaned towards?
If I'm going to be completely transparent, violence.
Okay.
I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. Is just like, I want animated violence. I think that's what drew me to Samurai Champloo initially, was the fact that, like, I love the Kill Bill movies.
Okay, that makes sense.
In the first Kill Bill movie, the sequence where they're talking about Oren Ishii's history, the animated sequence,
right?
That was done by the people who did Samurai Champloo. And so when I found out about that, that's really what kind of switched me on to Samurai Champloo. And then someone, one my former bassist in my last band, he was like telling me about Trigun, how it's like, I think it's right up your alley because there's not really any nudity in that or any sexual content in there. And I'm like, cool. So stuff like that. And then I'll hear about these other shows that'll come out, like Attack on Titan, or it's like, I want to like it, but there's things.
Right.
And
I get that. I totally get that.
So I'm hindered by my own principles.
Hey, what's one thing we talk about often on Geek Devotions is the whole aspect of personal convictions and what you can and can't do. And so totally respect that 100%. I believe the majority of Mobile Suit Gundam you're going to be very, very pleased with that. I think Iron Blood Orphans has a few things that you may not care for. This franchise, I don't know. The orders that came from General Romeo for this Witch From Mercury, we have zero context for. I'm really excited about it. I've seen some preview stuff about it. I have when I heard about it, obviously I was instantly intrigued by it. But this is going to be interesting regardless. And I'm excited to have you on the road with us, especially with this being your very first exposure to Gundam, actually, outside of the podcast. So you've listened to the last couple episodes of the podcast. What are your thoughts so far about the Gundam Watch?
I'm super curious about it. But I get that when I hear people who are impassioned about something talk about the thing that they're super into, it makes me curious about it, because I have someone else's lens of perspective to watch it with, and if I can apply that lens, I have a tendency to enjoy it a lot more than I would if I were to go in completely cold. And listening to you specifically talk about anime shows, it's like watching people eat food in anime. It seems a lot better than it probably is. Like, no joke, I've been on the lookout looking for a full copy of Galaxy Express 999 ever since that episode you guys did. So, and then
I just saw a copy at Second Charles. I wish I had known that. I would have grabbed it for you.
Boo, sir.
I'll try to find it for you.
And then what else is there? But yeah, listening to you guys talk about Gundam, it's made me curious, which is saying a lot, because I have had zero interest in Gundam.
Right.
It's pretty much since I've heard about it. Like my history of Gundam, like, the idea of mobile suits being piloted by humans was first introduced to me in the movie, when the movie Robot Jox came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I've made Robot Jox references to Dallas for a while now. And I saw it and I thought the movie was kind of corny, and I have a feeling we're going to end up covering it on our other podcast. But, and then like a couple years after that was really when the whole Gundam craze started to hit the US, where the Hot Topic crowd was really starting to roll on the Gundam. And of course, all I could think about was Robot Jox, and I'm like, that's dumb. So I just kind of sat that one out, and I've just, it's just that one movie, man. It just completely set the flavor in my mouth for it. And so it took you and Branson getting together and really geeking on it to really make me open to the experience again.
Right.
And that's mostly because I know you guys, and I trust your sense of taste when it comes to things, because you guys know what good anime is. So
I appreciate that. So I hope that some people may question that, but I appreciate that you think that.
Well, you also know where my lines are at. So I trust recommendations coming from you, because even if I don't necessarily enjoy the content, I know I'm not going to violate my conscience by watching anything that you or Branson throw my direction. So
True story. Well, since we kind of run down of who you are, your experience with anime, let's jump into the pods and watch this show. Okay. Let me read for you real quick the description of it, coming from our friends over at Gundam.info, which is Gundam.info. For those who don't know, that's where you can watch the prologue. That's what we're watching today, is the prologue to the series. The series doesn't actually start dropping until October. And but on the YouTube channel for Gundam.info, you can watch the prologue with various subtitles. And on their website, they describe it as this: taking place in Ad Stella, which is the era. It's like saying AD or something like that. An era when multitude of corporations have entered space and built a huge economic system. A lone girl from the remote planet Mercury transfers to the Astacasia School of Technology, ran by the Benaret Group, which dominates the mobile suit industry. Her name is Soleta Mercury, with scarlet light burning in her pure soul. With scarlet light burning in her pure heart, this girl walks step by step through a new world. And that's what we got going on. So It is done by Hiroshi Kabayashi. Kabayashi. I hate butchering these people's names. I really do.
Maru?
No, not that at all. But he directed Spriggan, which was really cool. I like that one, and Kill a Kill. And I'm trying to think. Oh, he did Dragon Pilot. Did you watch Dragon Pilot?
Did you not hear me when I said I was weeb adjacent?
I got you. I totally got you. So, well, all right, fine. And then the composition script of it was done by a guy named Ichori Okuchi. And he's done several things. He did Turn A Gundam. So, I mean, he's been in the Gundam universe. He's done Space Dandy, which I'm actually pretty interested in checking out. You need to watch the previews for Space Dandy. I think you would find it gloriously ridiculous. And
that title, just so many questions.
So many questions when you finally watch it. He also worked on and this is one that isn't really something that you'd want to watch, but it's something that was highly celebrated with how it played out, which was Devilman Crybaby. Again, not one I recommend for families on a regular basis at all, period. But it is one that was highly celebrated for how it was illustrated and how the storytelling was going. I'm also excited because he did also work on the 08th MS team, which is another Gundam type of situation. So he's been involved with the Gundam franchise for a while. So my hope is that with his involvement that this works well. So let's jump in to the pods and let's watch this.
Let's see here. I see a pod for you.
Yes.
A pod for Branson.
And that one right there's yours.
Bro, that's the pod I was talking about earlier.
Oh, no. I'm sure Haru's taking care of it. It'll be fun. All right. Let's slide into the pod right here. All right. My initial thoughts for the Witch from Mercury. I'm pretty excited about this. I, as a Gundam fan, having new property come out always excites me. And from the previews I've seen already, this is going to be kind of a different series. I know this is the first time we've had a female protagonist. But like, just look at the history of Gundam recent years. Like, I feel like Iron-Blooded Orphans was very different from some of the previous stuff. So my hope is that they're kind of continuing of telling a new, unique story, but keeping the feels and the emotions and the ideas that come through Gundam intact, if that makes sense. So I'm excited, always kind of, nervous, not sure what's going to happen with the franchise, but I have high hopes for it. The animation looks amazing from the previews already. So I guess that's my thoughts. Hopefully John enjoys this. Oh man, did Haru actually clean out that? Oh man, I hope that thing's not dirty.
Okay, let's see here. Slipping into this viewing pod. I guess I'm supposed to talk about my thoughts or expectations. Why does it smell like popcorn farts and cured meats in here? Gross. I guess this is just the general use pod for whoever they have stopping by. Anyway, let's see here. Personal thoughts, expectations. Well, I guess I should say that this is going to be my first Gundam experience, like in the actual Gundam series. Gundam was starting to be popular towards the end of my tenure in high school, which was a certain amount of years ago, and I just it wasn't my jam back in the day because it got popular, and I was one of those guys who, if it's popular, then I'm not interested because I'd rather be finding something else. So, I mean, I guess like the closest thing to Gundam that I ever was into, or I can't say into, but that I watched was the movie Robot Jocks back in the 90s. And so I think I've just kind of forever associated the whole Gundam concept with Robot Jocks, and that movie was straight up corny, so I just assumed that the cartoons would be too. And then Linkin Park started pushing on the Gundams a little bit, and I'm like, Linkin Park is stupid, so I'm not interested. So, yeah, this is going to be breaking some personal barriers for me, I suppose. So, I guess that's all I have.
All right.
Bro, that pod smelled like pepperoni and dog farts, bro.
Wow. I could have sworn Haru had gotten that cleaned up for you, man. I am so sorry. We'll have it cleaned up before the next guest, at least.
Oh, good for them.
You're a trailblazer, man. You set the standard for them. As the first official guest of the show, you've set a standard. Congratulations.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
All right. Well, let's get into the conversation about the series. And again, this is The Witch from Mercury, and brand new series taking place in Adstella. And there's a lot happening in this prologue. So I just want to pass this off to you guys as a newbie here, John. What are your initial thoughts about the show, this prologue?
This is not the episode to come in on knowing nothing about Gundam. I mean, it had all the aspects of Gundam that I expected based off of my base knowledge. You know, the art was very detailed. It contains a lot of what I refer to as fine point drawn art.
Yeah,
where the lines are very thin and the edges are very crisp. Which is like some of my favorite anime to look at, because some of that stuff is super detailed.
It's really beautiful. Whenever they're in the one mobile suit and they're shooting off, I keep wanting to call them funnels because that's what they're called in a previous version of Gundam, and they're flying around. The way that they almost had this cosmic glow coming off of them as they flew around was beautiful to watch.
And you gave me you had me watch a subtitled copy.
That's all they have.
I'm not exactly the world's fastest reader. I caught most of the dialogue,
right?
But there was a lot in there that I think they were just coming from a position of understanding that I did not have. Like, okay, they expected me to know some things that I don't. Like, I don't know why there's I don't know what score 2 or score 4 is, and why do they get scales on their face when they're fighting? And like, I am confused. And now we have gunned technology for amputees, and why does this matter in Mobile Suit Gundam? And
well, you bring up an extra point there, John, in the fact that because the subtitles are going, it is kind of hard to track if you're not able to read it very quickly. Let me back up and answer some of the questions for you one at a time. Which one do you want me to address first?
All of it.
Okay, so basically this is a world where humans are trying to get into space. They're trying to get out there. And when you watch and you kind of read through the whole storyline, you get the impression that you begin to realize that space is not good for the human body. It's not designed to handle it well, and it has issues. And so this one particular organization had created this, what they called gun format, which was basically artificially changing people's body parts so they can function in space. Humans already been trying to live in space, but their body was degrading and tearing down. So they made some changes. So the main characters that you saw was the elder woman and that young lady who had the robotic arm. She was one of those ones who was a victim of not being able to handle space. And there was an organization called Earth Orc, I think was what they called it. They came alongside that organization and said, hey, we'll help fund this. But in the funding, they adjusted the purpose from being helping people survive in space to military applications of mobile suits. And so, but what they discovered is that piloting these suits with this new gun format is taxing on the body. and the score system appears to be a leveling system of how well you engage with the machine. And the higher the score, the more you're able to control it and manipulate it as it goes. And so what you saw happening was the reddening in their face and on their eyes. That was the result of what they called a mental storm, which I was talking with Celeste. That's an actual thing, a mental storm. And basically it's where your brain just kind of just fries out. And when it happens, people's faces, they redden like that. And they will break down and possibly die. And so that was the whole ordeal, was they're trying to develop this technology, but most people cannot handle the activity. And so the Lefreth, which is the main pink Gundam we saw at the end of the episode, this was the prototype of prototypes. This is the one that they're like, if we can make this work, we're good to go. And basically that's what was taking place. Does that answer some of your questions?
Okay.
So were there any other questions about it?
All of it. I mean, like, that I had nothing but questions when I walked away from the show. Like, who's this guy that is former military, that's being a complete D-bag, that's, I'm shutting everything down with murder because I am against murder?
That's a great question. I don't know. That's one of those things that, like, they're preparing us for what the series itself is going to answer. So that's one of those things, is what's his backstory?
And it's just like, he's like, we're gonna take out all the Gundams, the mobile suits, by using mobile suits to destroy the mobile suits. I'm like, bro, your logic is self-defeating. This is like, I don't. It's like Gandhi having a peaceful protest with a semi-automatic. I don't understand this.
Okay, so his motivation we don't know what the full motivation is. I get the impression that it's more of a money thing for him, that he's probably on the back end of developing their own mobile suits, especially since we know that in the main series, the girl's going to be going to a school of technology that's ran by mobile suit producers.
Sir, I am going to say I did not know that, because all I got was this. So,
well, I mean, I just read the description for you.
I know, but I'm just saying, when I watched it,
my assumption is his motivation that he gave in story and prologue was they're too dangerous, and so therefore he wants it shut down. Now, the link that he went to shutting it down tells me that he has more nefarious plans at foot.
But he's not wearing a mask.
Again, I told Branson the same thing I'm telling you. It's not always the guy in the mask. And we don't know. It could be that in between the prologue and the first episode, he'll end up in a mask.
I don't know. It's just... To me, I'm trying to say this in a nice way.
Yeah.
But... Okay. I mean... To me, it feels like that this episode was designed specifically for Gundam fans. Like, they designed it specifically for, like, you're already into this, so we, expect you to understand everything we're presenting to you.
Interesting.
And there's that expectation that you're just going to suspend all disbelief and roll with it because you want more Gundam. Whereas me watching this and seeing this guy being like, who's essentially saying, if I was going to give it a modern, a real world parallel, he's basically saying guns kill people, and guns kill people, and we don't want people to die. And the only use for guns is for killing things. So the only people who should have guns is the government, because only the government should be able to kill people, is basically what I'm reading. I'm like, this logic is so flawed. It's basically, I don't know. To put it in PG terms, some of the logic is up its own donkey.
Okay.
It's so caught up in its own drama that it's trying to present that it lost track of feasibility.
Right.
And I think it kind of telegraphed some of the core narrative that it was putting out there. Strongly telegraphed. I'm sitting here watching it. And I'm like, oh, that little girl's going to end up being the pilot of that big pink Gundam.
Right.
Like, I saw that coming a million miles away. And it's just like, oh, that's her parents. Yeah. Her parents are going to die. Yeah. Her grandmother. Yeah. She's dying too.
Right.
And it's just a lot of it felt telegraphed, and that's not me coming down on the series. It's me. Ultimately, this is just how I respond to things when I don't understand what's going on.
Sure.
So I latch onto the things that I can see, and I feel like if I had more of a solid foundation in the Gundam universe, I would have enjoyed this a lot more than I did.
Okay. I totally get that. Now, if this had been projected in English where you felt like you were able to absorb it a little bit easier, do you think it would have been a little smoother for you?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I still would have had the questions that I had, and it's not so much that I wanted to be spoon-fed the answers.
Right.
But it's just, it's sort of like, I'll put it to you like this.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine, I got it. Playing games with strangers.
Right.
You know my podcast, Playing Games with Strangers. It would be like if I were to drop you in, if I were to bring back your character of Panda of Playing Games with Strangers, and I were just to drop you in we're starting arc 4 right now.
Right.
And then you'd be walking in, and we'd just be sitting here talking about things that are happening, and you'd be like, what? I mean, you would pick up on the more immediate things that are happening around you, but the core narrative, it's going to end up escaping you.
I get that.
And you're not going to have as good of a time, and you're not going to have as good of a time as the people who've been there for the whole thing.
Right.
And that's kind of where I was at. Like, I enjoyed the art. The art in this was beautiful. The sound design, the music was great. But that narrative, man, I felt like I hit a brick wall with it, because there was so much there I was expected to already know.
Right.
And
well, I'll say this.
Didn't.
This is a brand new universe. So I have zero frame of reference for anything in the universe outside what has already been given to us through this one episode also. And the preview of the franchise coming. That's all I have. So I like you, I am dropped in the world of going, okay, what's happening here? Who are these people? What is the story that's going on? And this is kind of one of those things where maybe it's more of the fact that I've given this more of a pass because it is a prologue. It's something that they put together to go, all right, we're going to give you a couple of pieces because you're going to need to know what this is before we get into the real story that's going to expound on everything. Like, this is almost a great example. I struggle with slice of life animes because they kind of have the mindset that the thing you're talking about, where you're like, you're dropped in and there's all this stuff happening, you're having to piece it together. This feels like a dramatic slice of life of the greater world of the Witch from Mercury. Does that make sense?
I get it.
And so maybe that's the reason why I'm not struggling as much with you, because I'll go into going, this is a prologue. This is something that's just, here's some breadcrumbs of what's coming into the future. Maybe?
I get it. I felt like Katie Lee on the episode she guest starred on Playing Games with Strangers.
Oh yeah.
Because it felt, because actually you were there for that episode.
I was.
It legit felt like it was an easy plot to understand until I had to explain to her what was going on, and I'm like, I am so far up my own mule on this. Like, oh wow. Yeah. So I mean,
well, I think the difference here though is with your example of dropping me into the middle of arc 4 of your campaign, It is a matter of you guys are in the middle of a story and all the actors are in on the story already, except for me.
Arc 4, we're starting a new narrative. I mean,
all the characters and all the backstory is still existent. This is all new characters, all new backstory. Everything in this is brand new.
Right, but you got the Gundam stuff there, like the score stuff, and
brand new. This is a whole new system.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. So this is like one of the things I talked about in our What is Gundam, is the term Gundam changes from series to series. In the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, it was a code name for a type of build. In Gundam Seed, it was an operating system. In Mobile Suit Gundam Wing, it was any machine that was made out of Gundanium alloy. This system is brand new. I have zero frame of reference outside of what I saw in that preview of the prologue of what is happening with the score system.
Huh. Then how did you come up with the whole brainstorm? And
because they said it.
They did?
Yes. That's what I'm saying. I think that if you had watched it in English, if you have been able to, if you were able to either slow it down and be able to process it, because this was kind of a last minute recruitment for you to do this, or if it had just been in English and English dubbing for you, you would have been able to catch some of these things that I caught with it also. Because this is brand new. The whole this system of classes and levels and all that, all of it's brand new. The way that everything's controlled, it seems to be this is more of a mental control thing as far as what the main Gundam is. At least that's the only explanation I can have with the fact that the little girl is controlling things just naturally. And she seems to have a better connection with the Gundam rather than the other two guys or the other two people in the other prototypes that were going out red.
Huh.
Does that change things a little bit for you, knowing that?
Maybe. Like I would have to go back and watch it again.
Sure.
I think. But I mean, like this is like legit. And for everybody out there who's listening, like take what I say with a grain of salt. Because like this is legitimately single watch, immediate reaction afterwards.
Right.
Like if I take us out of the narrative of the show right now, like legit Dallas messaged me this morning. He's like, "Hey, you want to be on a show?" And I'm like, "Okay." And it was watch it. I had to go to a meeting, came back home. Let's talk about it. So I had virtually no time to digest what I watched too. So
that's fair. But honestly, John, I like the fact that you kind of come like this, because that was part of the basis of the show was a matter of, I do have rose-colored glasses when it comes to Gundam series. I'm a fan. I go into these hard because I enjoy the franchise as a whole. And so having somebody who's fresh, it adds a whole nother conversation to it. Now, the fact that we were able to process this together, I feel like I might tweak it. Would you be willing to commit to watching the first, let's say, 3 episodes of the series when it finally comes out in October? And then coming back on the Shiro Base and having this conversation again?
I will say this. I would be willing to do that for this show, because I appreciate what the show is and what it's trying to do. I like the idea of try it and see if you like it situation, and give it more of a chance than just here's an episode. And that's kind of what you did with Branson. And I'm along for the ride. Like, this approach to consuming media is what allowed me to enjoy Battlefield Earth when we watched that for playing for the bottom shelf.
The bottom shelf.
So many podcasts. Now I can honestly say if you were just saying, "Hey, would you watch it on your own?" And probably not. just based off of that first taste. But
right.
I'll put in the work and talk about it 3 episodes deep.
Okay.
Because I can play the game and see if it can change my mind. I can tell you, even outside of things I don't know right now, with the narrative that's established with this chosen one little girl with who's been orphaned but from her daddy now, and she's just got mom to hang on to.
Right.
And basically the birthday candles on her cake was her dad's Gundam exploding.
That was some emotional heartstrings right there, buddy.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
That all just felt JRPG cliche to me.
As someone who didn't grow up with a father in their life on a regular basis, that was a thing. Celeste had the same issue, like, because we're both coming from it with the emotional pull of, we didn't necessarily have our dads with us the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing that take place, that hit us.
For me, it hit me like a narrative cliche. I'm just like, really? a Japanese narrative of a chosen one who had one, if not both, of their parents killed before them when they were too young to realize what they were looking at as they sang "Happy Birthday." Why don't you give them spiky hair and a big sword too? I mean, let's hit all the cliches.
That's what the Gundam's for.
It felt a little Final Fantasy to me, but that's whatever.
Yeah, and that brings up an interesting point, though. I think that Branson, when he listens to this episode, he may not care for this franchise because he doesn't care for the chosen one mentality. He had issues with when we had the next episode coming out next week of the official episode 2 of Suit Gundam, our Gundam Watch, where we review Soldiers of Sorrow. And they introduced the conversation of new type, which is new type was it's a term from the original French series about the next stage of evolution. And he felt they were trying to say that it turned into more of you had to be a chosen individual to be able to pilot the Gundams. And I had to kind of walk him through that and help him understand that that's not necessarily what is happening there. But he doesn't really care for that whole chosen one storyline.
It can be done well.
Mm-hmm.
If you approach it from a new perspective,
right?
But the problem is in a lot of cases, it just feels really tired, especially in a post Matrix world.
Yeah, I can get that. I can understand that. So, all right. Well, let's give our final thoughts, man. What are your final thoughts on this series so far?
Based on
prologue.
Based on the one episode I've seen, the one time I've seen it, and just off of my perception, it's not a good jumping on point for people who are new to Gundams in general.
That's fair.
At least as has been my experience. But it is beautiful to look at. It is, the art in it is gorgeous. So far, the plot line seems a little bit cliched, but it's just a prologue. So, and because it's just a prologue and I had you to explain certain things to me that I apparently missed, I'm willing to write it out a little bit longer to see, because, some shows are like that. You got to get a couple episodes in before it gets its hooks in you.
There's a rule of the rule of 3. That's the reason why I ask you 3 episodes. Normally takes 3 episodes of an anime for you to really decide if you like it or not.
So I am willing to take that. It is intriguing enough to make me open to taking a trip, that trip with you. The art and sound design alone is enough for me to be able to take in and say, I enjoy this. So if that nothing else, it gives me an excuse to look at it a little bit longer.
Cool.
But at this juncture, I would say that this is probably not the best jumping on point for me, but I am still curious about the first season. So
yeah,
it hasn't switched me off to Gundam either.
Right. I guess that's good. That's a good, that's a good thing that hasn't just gone, this is so terrible, I'm done with this whole Gundam thing altogether. And I'm just going to chalk it up there with, what was it? Robo Jocks or whatever?
Robot Jocks.
Robot Jocks.
I am shocked that you have never seen that movie, Dallas.
I looked up some screenshots of it and I have vague memories of it. I don't remember it, but I have vague memories of it. So I may have to track it down and we may have to, I don't know, maybe we'll do a special crossover episode.
I want to say that was a JCVD movie, but I don't remember.
I don't know. So for me, obviously, like I said, I have a bias towards Gundam. I'm willing to say if a Gundam series is trash, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story that it started doing. Again, it's a prologue. It's giving you nuggets for the major story. I enjoyed some of the callbacks, like when the one Gundam was shooting off those little discs, and then also when the Lefreth was shooting off its own things. They were called funnels in the original series. I like that. I like those callbacks to some of those older type of things. So for me, I'm going to say I enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to at least the next 3 episodes. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our thoughts. If you've watched it, we want to hear from you guys. That being said, we're going to make a quick transition now into our maintenance reports.
Now loading the cruise maintenance reports. Reports begin in 3, 2, 1.
All right, and welcome to the maintenance report. This is where we take a look at what we just watched, these series of Gundam, the movies of Gundam, and we bring out some encouragement from it, some sort of spiritual truth, something to help you, encourage you, challenge you, maybe help you through some stuff. So that being said, John, do you have a maintenance report for us today?
I do. My maintenance report comes from Proverbs 18:2.
Okay.
Which is, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. I chose this one based off of the military dude that was just like, Gundams are bad, and I'm going to use Gundams to kill the Gundams because we don't want Gundams, because only Gundams should have Gundams because they don't murder people face to face. And then, like, when that military force was going in to basically kill Grandma, and Grandma's trying to explain, like, no, we need this technology to help people survive space. And they're like, it's the technology of murder. It's just like, the first thing that went through my head was like, was basically, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. Like, right. They did not care to understand why they were doing what they were doing there. They just were like, hey, this is what we think. And so because we think it's the only logical thought, which I think is a good parallel for people to pay attention to nowadays, because everybody's so focused on expressing their own opinion as if it's the only thought out there.
Right.
And they don't even try to understand how other people think. They just think, oh, you don't agree with me, therefore you are my enemy. And
right.
So it's dumb. And there's a reason why the Bible calls people like that fools. So
yeah, totally. Even if you are in the right, legitimately, as Christians, we generally believe we have the truth and we know what is right. If we don't stop to understand other people, we can't effectively help them see the truth.
Yeah, and that's absolutely true. And I think the other part of that is to understand that understanding does not necessarily mean agreement. You True. Can understand somebody's position without having to agree with it.
100%. And that's the thing is, I think we have this mentality that we live in a world right now where it is such if you don't agree with me, you're absolutely wrong. And we don't take the time to understand people. And there is a falsehood that, if you understand me, then you must agree. No, not necessarily. So years ago, I did a report in college on the Christology of a cult, a particular cult that presents itself as Christian. And the premise of the report that I gave to my theology teacher was purely on the fact that I cannot effectively minister to a person. I could not minister to them well without understanding where they're coming from, because vocabulary and the way that they perceive things were so specific. They have the same vocabulary that we have in Christianity, but it means something entirely different. So therefore, for me to properly minister to somebody, to reach out to them with truth, I have to take the time to understand how they hear my words. And I have to understand how I'm going to hear their words. Mm-hmm. And so it is a matter of, we have to take time to understand each other well. It's just like even within this conversation about Gundam, you didn't necessarily understand what was happening until I explained it to you. And now that we have, it's like, oh, well, maybe this isn't a bad thing.
I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand now.
Exactly. Well, good. I like it. Any other things you want to add to your maintenance report?
No, I mean that was the biggest focal point. This show is basically the conflict between the chosen one and chosen ignorance. So
that's a great way of putting that, actually. Cool. Well, for my maintenance report, I'm going to invite you guys to check out this past week's episode of Geek Devotions. That is, I'll remind you guys that the Gundam Watch is an extension of Geek Devotions. This is a branch of the Geek Devotions network. And this past week, I did a devotion talking about the Witch from Mercury. And it's going to be on the YouTube channel for Geek Devotions. And I'll have a link down below for you guys to check that out. It should be on the website by the time this comes out. I'm not sure. But that's where that is. And we want to hear from you guys. What did these maintenance reports make you think of? How were you encouraged by them? How were you challenged by them by any chance? And I also want to hear your guys' thoughts on The Witch from Mercury, the prologue, if you've watched it. If you've not watched it, after having this conversation with me and John, are you apprehensive about listening to it or watching it? Or are you like, dude, full send, let's go for this? I legitimately want to know from you guys. John, thank you for being on today. How can people get a hold of you?
All right. I have made a list, like literally a list, to make sure I don't lose track of my stuff. I'm not contactable directly because I'm a very private person.
Sure.
But if you want to check out other things that I do, I am the DM on Playing Games with Strangers. I am the voice of Nick Foster in Supersonic Pod Comics, The Randoms. I do The Bottom Shelf with Dallas, Branson, and Kevin. I do We Read Allegedly with Celeste and Squid. I do occasional episodes of Primitive Rhythm Machine for the Patreon subscribers of Geek Devotions. And Steve is back, by the way. Everybody.
Steve is back. I'm so excited.
I am a voice actor on Gospel by Gaslight. And Dave and I have a new podcast segment for Comtac, which is Casual Gamers Society. So all that, and I have a band called Mezzanine. So
we're going to need to set up just a website called johnharju.com with just direct links to all your stuff.
Do I look like Paul J. Powers to you?
If I squint a little bit. So, John, thank you for being on the show today. I also want to thank you, John, because our theme song was written, produced, and used with permission by you. And so we appreciate that. And
little clarification on why you say that every episode. I just want everybody to know that I am not a complete douche nozzle that needs everybody's attention on me for that. It's the way I made the theme song. I had to use samples that I bought licenses for.
Right.
And so if we don't state that it was done by me and used with permission, it puts Dallas in a weird situation for copyright strikes because he doesn't own the licensure, whereas I have a commercial license. So if I have made something for another thing, then it's legal reasons. But just understand that he doesn't say that because I'm like, I need the attention. Like, because if anybody knows me, they know I don't want attention.
Yeah.
So I'm not that guy, please. I just wanted to put that clarification out there.
So all the attention is on John all the time. That's why he's in every single podcast.
Hate it. I just like legit podcasting is just my way of being able to hang out with my friends because I don't live in the same state as them. So
right. Oh my gosh. Oh man. By the way, speaking of our intro, John is supposed to be working on a new version of it with a reworking the vocals on it. So
I forgot what I said I was going to do for that, but
we can talk a rap thing.
I was.
That's what you said.
I gotta look that up because I forgot what I had something very specific in mind to do, and then I don't remember. So,
well, we'll get to that.
This is what happens when you have 7 podcasts, a band, a youth ministry, a worship team, and everything else.
I understand. So I want to invite you guys, hey, check out the Gundam Watch on Facebook and on Instagram. Just look for the Gundam Watch. And we also have a website that we are developing. It's called thegundamwatch.wordpress.com. Hopefully down the road, we'll have some finances come through where we can have a real life URL. But check that out where we're going to be posting up these. We're also posting up article versions of our maintenance reviews, our maintenance reports, and we're going to have a section coming soon called the Gundam Read, where we'll be having reviews of the mangas based off some of these Gundam series that we're watching. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay devoted.
Love and peace.
Yeah, that works.